way of introduction, I'd like for you just to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and where you're situated.
Thank you for having me today, Quentin. I am a clinical educator in the Division of Communication Sciences and Disorders, and we are in the Department of Health and Rehab Sciences at the Faculty of Health Sciences.
Critical diversity really at its core posits and asks the question, how does power become manifest in everyday social relations? And against this backdrop, I'm wondering how you have connected, can you share some of how you've connected the idea of graduate attributes, core skills, and leadership into your curriculum?
So we've taken the advice and looked at, for example, speaking to our students about gender-based violence and their identities and how they interact with other people that they are within the student body, but also within the communities that they are exposed to. We've had your team come in and do very real workshops with them, getting them to think and interact with each other in ways different to what they would usually do in the classroom.
I think you also speak about the idea of a developmental approach, or scaffolded learning approaches. Can you say a little bit more about that in terms of the thinking and how that has landed in the health sciences space? So
when we're starting off with our junior clinical students, we're trying to get them to think about their own reactions to what they're being exposed to. How do you feel about it? What have you thought about it? Encouraging them to do things like journal and reflect. And we want them to be reflective on what they're being exposed to. And then as we get to third and fourth year, we're then thinking about, now, how are you working with others in this space? What are you being exposed to? How does that make you feel? What is your story? Or what are the influences that are having you act the way that you're acting? And then sort of in fourth year, it's about, well, now you're going to be working with a broader community. So how do you deal with things that you're not used to or not, it hasn't been exposed to before?
You're making those very real and concrete connections in relation to practice as practitioners. I'm wondering if you could share some of the outcomes as impact. So have you seen any shifts or transformations as a result of the workshops?
The one thing that I have noticed is, and I don't know if it's a result of the workshops, it may not be, but the one thing that I've noticed is that students are more comfortable being themselves. So when we have students that are part of the LGBTQ plus community, we're not having as many issues with others talking behind their hands. So, people are more comfortable to be themselves in the space with us.
And I'm wondering if there are any associations you make with regards to having seen practitioners graduate without core skills, so the ability to work in diverse environments, to lead diverse teams, etc. Has there been any shifts or differences in relation to the type of graduate that you see in the last few years?
I do think that there's been more emphasis on being aware of context. So that's not always something that we've discussed openly with them, and being aware that they can do something to effect a useful change if they see it's necessary.
I also hear you speak about the students going into environments to actually apply skills. So we look at that as community engagement, for instance. Any thoughts or reflections on the connection around critical diversity and the ability to be well-rounded citizens, well-rounded practitioners?
I think that in the world that we live in today, we have so many influences outside influences on what we do, that you cannot not be aware of those things. And if we are not equipping our students to be able to deal with whatever they may find is different from what they're used to, they are going to struggle. So, we have a responsibility, aside from the academic content, of actually making sure we have well-rounded people.
You've been in the Faculty of Health Sciences and you've integrated this into your curriculum. My question would be, in your view, who should be integrating this? Who is this for?
We're working at a tertiary level at this point, and I would say that anybody in any tertiary institution would be it would be useful information to take into the curriculum. But I would actually even go further to say it's something that we need to have happening at schools already. It's something that is not particular to university students needing to know that these are things that you're going to be exposed to, or what is happening in your community around you.